Hey, thanks for taking 5 with me, Wolf Korlick. A few minutes riffing on IT and IT security. Today, looking at the things that don't change. So oftentimes I hear, oh, security is really challenging. It's constantly changing. We can't keep. Is it, though? Is it really? I don't know. That's what we're going to look at. This is a designer, fashion designer from the 20th century, Yves Saint Laurent. So Yves Saint Laurent comes out in the 1960s. It's very prolific until the aughts. And he had this phrase, and I love it. He says that fashion fades, but style is eternal. The tip for you is this. Any given tactic fades, but security is eternal. And the things that don't change are really the fundamentals that we need to start with and focus in on. What are those things? Well, part of it is like authentication and authorization, right? We've had passwords since the 60s. Security is eternal. And the pros and cons and what we're doing about it and all that's tactical. That, of course, changes. And the ways we're authenticating now are going to fade. However, the importance of authenticating and making sure that you really are you before you can get on my systems and that the right permissions are in place, that's eternal. In terms of permissions being in place, access control, role-based access control, attribute access control, right? The ability that once I know you are you, to make sure that you can only do what is appropriate for your role without excessive privileges. So think about least privilege, without segregation of duties. Think about those. 90s. pretty consistent. The fact that we are racing the clock, the fact that the time it takes the bad guys to break in through authentication or authorization or bypass it, we'll come back to what that looks like in a minute, that time is what we're hoping to extend. The time to detect and respond to that is what we work to shorten, right? Good incident response, good monitoring, those sort of things. Time-based security, late 90s. Things that may be eternal. Change management. Any change that happens has the ability to reduce our security. How many times have we talked about that as a leading cause of a breach? Moreover, anytime a change occurs, it's possible that that was an accidental change, a malicious change, a criminal, an attack. One of the easiest ways to detect a criminal or an attacker is to see if they actually changed things. Because if they didn't change anything, why did they bother breaking in? And how are they going to stay in? Change management. Visible ops, right? Traces back to the early aughts. Visible ops with Gene Kim. I would argue eternal. Human beings, the psychology, the cognitive biases, the way we think about things, the way we respond to incentives. 200,000 years? Past, since the 60s, we've been dealing with this in terms of technology. Since the 90s, we've been dealing with it in terms of technology for non-technical people. That is only driven up. I would say that's pretty eternal. What does that mean? Well, obviously we want to handle what fades, the newest vulnerabilities, the newest attacks. Handle what fades, the new tactics for stopping those vulnerabilities, the new patches, the new security controls, the new MI, ML, block, next gen thingy. Yes, obviously we want to pay attention to what fades because, much like fashion, things come and go. And if we want to get ahead of those trends, which there isn't a great deal of argument that being ahead of those trends buys a lot of security, yes. However, if you're thinking about getting into this field, if you want to get better at being in this field, focus on the eternal. Security is eternal, and that's authentication, authorization, access control, good asset management, good change management, and by golly, a good understanding of what people are going to do with the systems they give us and the systems we give them. Spoiler alert, not what we expected. What other eternals can you think of? Comment, social media. Hit me up.